Welcome everyone to May Mental Health Month. If you're here for the program Tools for Resilience, you're at the right place, right time, and we're excited to present the program on letting go of the heavy backpack. I'm Cindy Peterson with Northern Lakes Community Mental Health. I'd like to also introduce my colleague, Clarice Hartnett-Manny. She's been with mental health for over 30 years. She's currently our training specialist at Northern Lakes Community Mental Health Authority. She manages state training curriculum for our home providers and for services for persons with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Clarice has a background in education and health physiology, as well as managing a hospital wellness program. She is a strong advocate for many of the people we serve, and I'm proud to be a trainer with her in several of the programs that we do. I'm going to have you just speak a moment, Clarice, and then I'll talk about the tools for resilience.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. And it's so nice. We have some sunshine outside, and hopefully we can give you some ideas to bring you some sunshine in your mind today. I want to introduce Cindy. And if you don't know Cindy Peterson, she's been with our agency for 33 years, but she's been a program manager and involved in mental health for close to 40 years. Cindy is our PR specialist. However, we all know that she wears many hats. She also has a background in education. She is a certified social worker, and she does so many programs. She's an amazing advocate for all of the people that we serve. She spends a lot of time in the community creating and presenting advocacy programs to promote healing, to promote self-directed lives, and to promote recovery and all the services that we have here at CMH. She has been my mentor. I've been here for 28 years and in mental health for longer. She's been my mentor as a trainer. So I'm trying to show the best as my mentor is watching me. So Cindy is also a mental health first aid trainer, and we train together. And she does so much for everybody. And so please help me to welcome her, and I'm so thankful to have her presenting today. So we'll get going with the program.
Excellent. With this Tools for Resilience, which is offered on Thursdays and also several Tuesdays, we have Navigating for Conflict Resolution on the 9th, Dose of Life on the 11th, Creating and Developing Cultural Intelligence, which is May 16th. 18th is Strong Foundation, Bright Futures, and Building a Healthy Tomorrow. The 23rd is Trying to Keep Yourself Safe Online. And our last program on the 25th is Health is Our Wealth. All of these programs we offer from 12 to 1 o'clock. At the end of this whole series in May, we will have this as part of our website libraries. So you would be able to access the PowerPoints and get this information. And we just hope it's good tools for you, and we'll start the program for you. So what do we think as far as this course and how it could help? I think whether you work in education or healthcare, human services or business or any field, sometimes you're in that situation where a person starts getting angry, or it starts to escalate, or there might be hostile behaviors. And so it's very, very key. And we're going to be talking about recognizing different signs on this. Is your response to these behaviors and how to avoid that physical confrontation with somebody. I want to show you a very beginning, when we said putting down that heavy backpack. Sometimes we carry this heavy burden, heavy load, of different kinds of situations, maybe of what has happened in our past. And I think it's so important to let it go. Those boulders in your backpack, get heavier and heavier to the point where it feels like you're dragging it along. So we're also promoting our myStrength program, which is a health application, and I'll explain that at the end of our program. But we have this as a free health application for everyone that is in any of our areas, many counties that are represented with North Country Community Mental Health and also our Northern Lakes Community Mental Health. So I'm going to start this video. It's probably about 2 minutes for you to just see.
You strap on a backpack, essentially. The backpack is full of rocks. It's a lot. And as you continue to carry it, you find yourself picking up other things. You pick up uncertainty, and then you pick up isolation, and then you pick up alienation, and then you pick up an even bigger bag of depression, and then anxiety comes into it. You pick up silence, and you become so accustomed to all these things based on the one backpack that you had initially that you don't even realize that your arms are heavy. You don't realize it. You just think this is just what comes with the backpack. This is me accessorizing, essentially. This is my outfit. This is a part of my outfit. When it's not. We worry that when we tell people we're putting our burden on them, and we're carrying all these bags, and we're so scared to tell people because we don't want people to carry our things. But what I've realized in just telling people that I love and that I know love me and have shown me that they love me is that their job is not to help me carry the burden. Their job is to help me put it down. You put these things down one by one because you start to say it. You say it to yourself. That's you putting down the silence. You then feel comfortable enough to admit it aloud. And then you put down the alienation, and then you tell somebody that who knows you and who you know loves you and that you love. And then you put down the isolation. And before you know it, you're putting down your depression and anxiety and all these different kinds of things. And as you continue to move forward, you realize, dang, my arms are tired. I don't have to carry all this stuff. I don't have to do this by myself. I can put it down. And before you know it, you've taken the rocks out of the backpack, and maybe the backpack is still there. Maybe you still have it, but it doesn't have to weigh you down or hold you back. It's just something that happened. And in acknowledging that it's something that happened, although it may be terrible or ridiculous, you'll be able to put it down.
I think this is a very important message because we've come through a very difficult time with facing the pandemic. We're still facing some issues with COVID. And, what we saw is an increase in depression. We saw an increase sometimes with substance use. We saw an increase of people isolating. So when she talks about putting those burdens down and reaching out to someone or reaching out to get that help, that's so, so critical. So when looking at understanding behavioral challenges, I think it's very important to always look for a reason for that individual's behavior. Clarice and I many times debrief after maybe there's a situation we've handled, and we'll look at, what happened, what ways we could have maybe prevented that, what ways we could have handled that. So I guess we're always looking for solutions and ways that we could handle things better. I think it's always important to look at safety, security, dignity, and respect for that individual and others. That's always, always the most important concern. We just finished a mental health first aid class, a large class yesterday, and we talked about that, about keeping the people around you safe, whether it's your family member, whether it's somebody that person that we serve, but looking at that as primary consideration, looking at the safety for someone. Being also to look at that challenging behavior from that individual's point of view. Afterwards, when we talk about, Clarice and I debrief with each other, but being also having that opportunity to brief with that person that maybe had exhibited more behavior challenges, and always looking at the support, the structure, the fairness that will help that person interact more positively the next time. When we look at reasons for challenging behavior, Clarice is going to go over some of the main issues that might be happening.
Thank you, Cindy. And whether you are in a facility that you're caring for people, that you're helping them with whatever challenges that they have, whether you're a team leader at work, whether you're in your life, or whatever portion, what kind of work you do, we felt like it was important to talk about challenging behavior and to really think about yourself. And that's why we wanted to add the backpack, because we carry with us those big things that we need to deal with. And part of that is that how are we going to help this person? And they're really struggling, and I need to fix this. And we want to say we need to just take this step by step, and we need to feel good to help our fellow comrade feel good, or the persons that we are serving. And so we want to look at the reasons for challenging behavior. And we will sometimes say, in regards to the person that we are serving, or your teammate, or your suppose it maybe you're a supervisor of people that are having some frustrations and you're trying to help them. So we want to look at that behavior, but also realizing that we might be showing that challenging behavior as well, and how we can deal with that. So some of the reasons are, if somebody is quote acting out or showing you something that is not appropriate or just not safe, somebody needs something. And the big cause is somebody needs something right away. They're upset or confused. They don't know maybe what their direction is. We have the 4 categories, just real basic categories of fear, frustration, physical reasons that they're upset, or just plain anger. And that's usually things can be categorized in those categories. All right. When they're fearful, people need to feel safe. People need to feel safe. And if they don't feel safe, they're fearful. And when people are fearful, they do something to try to change that fear. The frustrations that a person has, just maybe it's because they can't get dressed very fast, and you're telling them to get dressed, or somebody's asking them to do something that they are just so frustrated because they can't do it. That is part of that. Oh, okay, I'm going to go so fast and I'm going to be very upset because I can't handle this. But I also want to point out that the physical notions of this, the physical being, if you are with somebody and they're upset and showing you some sort of different behavior, we need to really check out, actually, number one, are they okay physically? Some of the people that we work with, especially people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, may show that they have a headache, but they can't tell you because they can't communicate very well, or else maybe it's a different language that they're speaking, but they're trying to tell you that they have a headache. And if you've had a headache and you're trying to get rid of it, and somebody's putting some demands on you, it's really it's a really appropriate time that you're going to see behavior. And the other one, of course, is anger. When people are very upset with something and they get angry, they're going to show you a lot of kicking or a lot of physicalness and possible destruction of property, those kinds of things. So we want to look at the reasons, and we have to do that. We have to do that in a split second. So we wanted to give you some tips to work with that. Okay. Okay, so the next slide. All right, the reasons for challenging behavior, I kind of spoke about this just a second ago. Well, almost all of them. When a person is upset and confused, and I think about people that are the older population or the people that have dementia. We know that we have to communicate with them in a completely different manner because their dementia just does not allow them to process this. And then if they're not understanding what you're asking, then they become a little bit scared, and then they become a little bit more physical in their showing of what they're doing because they're scared and they're confused, and maybe they think that you're going to hurt them when all you're trying to do is to reach out. So any kind of confusion aids in the challenging behavior, of course. When somebody is uncomfortable or in pain, we just spoke about that, but how many people experience pain and it is so painful, they're trying everything they can do to not be in pain, and maybe they just, hit themselves because it feels better than the pain that they're feeling in other places. So that's a reason that we see those challenging behaviors. We talked about when somebody is afraid and when somebody is angry and somebody is frustrated. So lots of reasons that people show the challenging behavior. And Cindy's going to show you. I'm sorry, Cindy. Cindy's going to show you another very good video.
We're going to show you this one from myStrength, which, as Clarice said about the emotions, is recognizing the emotions that are creating those behaviors in intense situations. And this is called the emotion ocean. I want you to think about what you would do when you feel these waves crashing towards you. It really helps us stop and think about the emotions and behaviors and how it all interacts.
It's important to feel your emotions. Most of us, when we experience a negative emotion, we want to avoid that emotion or push it away. When that happens, it will increase the emotion. And if we don't acknowledge or we judge ourselves for having that emotion, it can make it worse. Negative emotions are like an ocean wave. And so if you're facing the ocean and you see a big wave coming, the inclination may be to turn around, run, turn away from the wave, and what can happen then is you'll be knocked off balance, you may even be knocked over, or submerged in the water. If you face the wave, you'll feel the intensity, it will come at you, but it will pass you, and it will slowly subside. So one experiment, and we know this to be clinically true, is that it takes an average of 90 seconds for an emotion, a painful emotion, to reach its intensity and begin to subside. And so if you try that, next time you're experiencing something painful, maybe sadness, anger, extreme frustration, disappointment, and allow yourself to experience the feeling. Do a stopwatch if you need to, look at your phone, and experience that feeling, and then you'll see that it gradually subsides.
I think this is an important part when we look at that fear, frustration, and anger. It's recognizing it, and like she said, let it rush over you. You experience that, but then it does subside, just like the waves crashing over you, and then they roll away. So I think it's important to look at that and to realize, and then to look at circumstances that might have caused that frustration or anger or fear, like Clarice was talking about. So some of the changes that might occur when you look at a person, when we look at different signs and symptoms, as far as behavior changes that a person might be experiencing, might be that pacing, it might be fidgeting, it might be this talking loudly or repeating things over and over, might be crying. It also might be where a person who had been very communicative communicative, would communicate a lot, all of a sudden they're seeming to isolate, they're not talking, so there's a change in behavior there, or the refusing to participate. The self-injury is sometimes exhibited by people that we serve, and that might be when we say self-injury, that might be cutting or excessive exercise. Sometimes can be a part of that. Self-injury can be pinching. So that moves further into behavior changes as far as coping strategies that somebody would maybe using. And basically any noticeable change, you see a change in your family member, a noticeable change where the person's behavior, there's been kind of a very significant about face, a 360, I say. So approach in these changes is everything. So there can be a lot of factors that negatively impact our ability to be calm, and that might be the lack of sleep, waking up late, lack of caffeine. If a person is drinking a lot of caffeine or coffees or heavy teas with caffeine, not enough sleep. So people have had disruptive sleep patterns, or they've gotten less and less sleep. That can affect the body. There's certainly a number of stressors, family stress, illness, trying to, for us, fit too much into one day or into the whole May Mental Health Month. So sometimes it's doing so many multiple activities that it makes it very difficult, and you feel like you're flitting like a butterfly from one thing to the next and not having enough time to even process. Could be interpersonal conflicts at work or with the family. Could be even things as simple as traffic jams. We're now having the roads worked on. It could be weather conditions that change. It could be also work stress. So all of these can impact and influence behaviors.
And we're going to continue to give you some tips to manage our own behavior. And we're really looking at both sides here, because if you are a helping person, and most of us, we are helping other people all of the time. And where is the, we have to help ourselves as well. But if we can realize that we can bring to our forefront of our minds tips to manage our own behavior, and really look at those things that Cindy talked about, the waking up late and the stress that we're feeling, and I had a bad day yesterday, but now I have to go in and I have to help this kind of a tough situation at work or in my family life. So of course, one of the biggest ones that I know of and we hear all about is taking a deep breath. And what I like to say is you just take the deepest breath that you can take with your shoulders back, and you take as long as you can to take that deep breath and hold it for just 2 seconds, and then you just let it go. And I didn't breathe out, but I was breathing out a little bit, but I didn't want to make a lot of noise. But when you do that, and I was intentionally being quiet, and that is such a good thing for me, because I'm a verbal person, and if I'm trying to help somebody, if we are trying to help people, we need to be quiet when we need to be quiet. So you're trying to quiet yourself. So that is an amazing thing to, if you know that you have to walk into a situation that's going to be stressful, take a deep breath and just stretch those muscles for 10 seconds if you have to, but let it out. And then it leads right to the second point on the slide, is choose your words very carefully. We want you to stop and think and go slow into this situation, because you need to plan, if you're going to say something, how you're going to say it. Cindy and I are both going to talk about this further, but you need to choose your words carefully, because words can be extremely damaging. And if you are very loud when the person or the situation does not call for a loud situation, you can further disrupt the situation, and it can become more dangerous. So we're going to give you some more tips. And the other thing is that if you walk into a situation and you know that it is not going to be an easy thing, and you see what's going on, and we're going to talk more about this, but please ask for help right away, and ask somebody to take lead if you need to. We have people around us that can help. We are team members, and if you are alone, we can help you figure those things out, but you can call. Most of us have phones these days, so don't hesitate to call 911, and we'll talk about that another time, but ask for help. It's very important that we help ourselves to help other people.
When we look at nonverbal communication, I think it's really important to realize that 80 to 90% of our communication is nonverbal. And we had masks covering our faces for a great deal of time, so people just could see our eyes. And maybe if you had a big smile, you could see your smile. But both the verbal communication, as Clarice pointed out, and the nonverbal communication is very, very important and helps with what we call de-escalation. It's always, always important to remember to communicate respect, give respect, and get respect, and present yourself in a very non-threatening way to that person in order to maintain that person's safety and also your own safety. So it's so critical as far as how you communicate. I always say smiling with your eyes, smiling helps soften sometimes those messages to another person. When we look at some of the nonverbal communication, I'm going to relate it back to safety. Get on their level. If they're sitting, then you sit down with them. The easiest way to help people focus is to have them sit down. And that helps as far as just kind of orientating them. It quiets sometimes where there might be, when we talked about pacing or fidgeting or additional movements, it helps kind of contain that person. Be very, very aware of personal space. Standing over a person, too close, it presents that, where you're a person in power. And I think it's very, very important to look at that personal space, that personal distance. So think about the nonverbals. How do you hold your body? How do you move your body as far as your posture and position? So all of these are very, very important. When we look at the personality behind your voice, and Clarice talked about talking loudly or rapidly. Sometimes when a person is in crisis, you have to repeat that information. You have to change your tone. You have to change the volume. You have to change even that rhythm of speech, so that sometimes you have to repeat yourself, because it's very difficult sometimes for people to process. So it's important to slow your speech pattern, to soften your tone, and to also lower your volume, because otherwise you get into this, one-upmanship. If you're louder, they're responding, and it's kind of like, the communication seems to really escalate and also break down. And so I think it's very important to look at how you can maintain, how you can keep this very positive interaction, but be aware of what I call the personality behind your voice, your tone you're using, the volume you're using, and also the rhythm as far as speaking. Clarice, you're on mute. You're on mute.
Thank you, Cindy. All right, we're going to be looking at improving the interaction. And I have found, the more that you work on improving the interaction with another person, the more you learn about yourself. And when you are having difficulty for yourself, maybe with a coworker or with a family member, then you can really start to be much more introspective and say, what am I doing? What am I doing that is not helping this situation? So improving the interaction, and Cindy, she talked about a couple of these, but you want to focus on that person. You're trying to help somebody that you're serving. And of course, you want to focus on the person. We don't need distractions at this point. They need your help. That is why you are there. You need to give them 100% of your focus. As Cindy said, you want to modify your tone and communicate acceptance. Always respect, and that's acceptance. Always do that. A big one for me is changing the energy level. If you walk into a situation that is very harried and moving fast, and you see that, just like I said, you want to have eyes way in front of you, see that the situation is kind of just busy with details that are not going very well, whatever the situation may be. You want to walk in slowly, and when you choose your words, you change that energy level. You want to bring it down. And the reason I'm saying that slowly is because that makes a difference in how we all feel. And it works. And I can get very loud, and that doesn't work. All right. So I know that bringing it down really works. So you change the energy level immediately. You change your expectations. This is an interesting one. As I started this particular slide, the more I learn about working with other people, the more I learn about changing my own expectations for myself, putting that heavy load of expectations on myself down, put those expectations down for myself as far as I need to be the perfect whatever. And also, if you're helping somebody, don't expect them to be perfect in whatever they're doing. They need your help. That's why they're showing you this behavior. So change your expectations of a person and just accept whatever they're giving you, and understand that they need your assistance. And when you're doing that, not only do you bring the energy down or a little bit more peaceful, but you're changing the pace of the activity. Maybe you're just helping somebody in an activity that somebody's been looking forward to for a long time, and they are so frustrated because they can't do it. They can't do it. And this happens often with us. If we have a wonderful IT department here, and as we are navigating through all these changes with technology, it is so frustrating. I've wanted to throw my own personal computer against the wall many times. I would never do that with my work computer, but the people that we have in our IT department are so patient because they know that our level is different. So they have to change the pace of the activity to really, really help us. And you can do the same thing when you're working with anybody else and serving other people. And it's very difficult when it's a loved one and you know darn well that they can do this. Change your expectations and then change the pace of the activity, because they are obviously frustrated. And if it's a loved one, if it's somebody that you're working with and they're having a difficult time, hey, it may not be the time to say you need to do this. The time right there is to just support and say, I'm right here. We'll figure it out, and just change the pace of the activity. Maybe it's just too much at that moment. Okay. The other thing that is a great way to improve the interaction is to involve choices. But you want to do that when they're, seeking something that might be better. They're not super involved in, being very, very upset, but say, well, what about this? Let's go over here. Do you want to pick up this over here? If you're working with somebody with a developmental disability and you're guiding them, often, hey, come with me and we'll go get a drink of water, just to change the activity. That's a redirection. Sometimes that just helps somebody, forget what they're doing and forget their whatever they're aggravated about. Yesterday I was in class, we were speaking about persons with dementia and working with older adults. And we know, or I know very well that, my mother that I care so much about and I'm caring for a lot right now, she gets frustrated extremely easy. And if I just let it be easy for her And actually, that's involve choices and make it easy. Why do I have to have her decide all these things? No, make it easy for her. Make it, and that in turn makes it easy for us. And so what if she says something and it's wrong? Do I have to correct her? No, I don't. Let them make that wrong assumption and just listen to that person and help work it out. And then for the next time, you can just work together and, and keep helping that person just get through that difficulty. That's what you want to do. That is shown to be so helpful. Just help the person through the difficulty, but by making it easy so you can get to the next part of whatever their day looks like. Make it easy for yourself. Okay, so we're looking at examples of verbal escalation. We touched on this, but it's a little bit different. I just want to share, of course, the people might be questioning. People, question, what are you doing? They're information seeking, and maybe they're very upset and they don't trust you. And trust is a big thing. So they're questioning, they're information seeking, and it's okay. People have a right to have the information. That's why proper information is so important when you're sharing. We want to make sure we have the right information and, to give it to them, but maybe not all at once. But they're seeking information. We want to get a rational response. You need to take the emotion out of it. Just tell them if they are asking a question, be very open and honest and say, this is what I know. This is what is going on. People want to challenge. They want to challenge, and they keep our challenging. Just stick to the topic. Say, well, this is what we know right now. People are always going to ask you questions that you don't know. And often, I call us people helpers. We often want to give them the whole scenario, but we can't do that because we don't have the information. So if you stick to the topic, just stay on topic and say, well, this is what we know right now. Why don't we try to go focus on the next question that you have? Right? People refuse, non-compliance, okay? People have a right to refuse. They absolutely have a right to refuse, so that's okay. And, set limits, that's sometimes a difficult thing. I want you to set limits for yourself and just say the limit is, I want to keep this interaction safe. All right. I don't want to have them get further escalated in their frustration. So you want to just try to keep it quiet. If they're going to be non-compliant, just wait. You can wait a minute and say, would you like to go do this now? I mean, you don't have to banter back and forth. So because people they are refusing because they're upset. All right. People, when they escalate, if the examples of an escalation is just releasing, they just outbursts, right? Sometimes that's the best thing that they can do. Let people do that if they need the time to do that. We all need a release, whether it be a physical action, and that's why exercise is so wonderful, a physical reaction to just get that tension out, or verbal escalation because they're just so angry at whatever's going on. Sometimes the best thing is to just make sure that they're safe. If other people are in the way, get them out of the way, or help get other people out of the way, but just help people get their whatever they need to vent about. It's a good thing to let people vent. And intimidation, people, when escalate, they want to intimidate and threaten. We know that could be a dangerous situation. We take all threats seriously. You do not want to counter that. You want to find ways to bring the energy down. You can say, I don't know, and maybe we should get some help. Maybe that will help bring the situation down. You do not counter that. I do know. When you go up in your escalation, you will not win. The situation may stop. The situation may end in an injury or broken or damage or some harsh words, but you do not win. And we want to just bring everything down. Okay, that's a key thing right there. Seek assistance. And if you are not the best leader for that situation and you know that there's other people around, you can say, my coworker, Jean, please come over here and help me. And I can say, Jim, maybe you would like to talk to Jean because I don't want to upset you. And so maybe I could just back away. Please feel free to do that. Be succinct, be as slow and methodical as you can, and just keep it easy, but pass that leadership on to somebody else if you can do that. When people escalate, it is tension reduction. Okay, so they'll have a decrease in emotional energy after they get done with whatever they're doing. I've been in situations in the very past that somebody is throwing things all around the house, all around the house. We would follow them, just step back, keep the other people safe, let them get out what they need to get out, because you may be in danger if you physically try to stop them. And I'm going to say you don't physically try to stop them unless they're trying to hurt other people, and then you need to get assistance right away. All right. And a therapeutic rapport, it's like, letting tension out is therapeutic for people, but seek assistance. We have so many experts here at CMH, the caseworkers and our nurses, of course, and we've got physical therapists and people that are very, very, have much expertise in helping create a therapeutic bond with that person. Okay. So those are just some examples.
When we look at empathetic listening, listening is sometimes the most difficult communication tool to do at all. When we talk about this, we look at this as an active process to recognize what the person is feeling, saying, or doing. And I think it's so important to look at even the interferences that we have today, and that might be phones, or if somebody's texting, or on the computer, or note, or noise. So it's so important to turn these tools off to be able to give that person your undivided attention. Very critical to remain non-judgmental. It's very easy to put those barriers, those communication walls up if you're coming in with that judging tone. Give yourself, as I said, that person the undivided attention. Get rid of the phones and those different tools that can be distracting. Listening very carefully, focusing on the feelings and the facts. Leaning in, that kind of nonverbal posturing shows your interest, that you're really trying to understand what that person is trying to convey to you. Also allowing silence for reflection. I'm an extremely verbal person too, and sometimes I get impatient because my mind is going fast and I've already got solutions for a person. But that doesn't help when you're trying to maybe de-escalate a situation. Allow that silence, allow that time for people to think and to also realize solutions for themselves. Another great communication tool is reflecting or paraphrasing and even restating what that person has said. All of these are great tools because it shows I'm interested. I'm trying to understand what you're saying to me. I'm trying to listen very, very carefully. So these are all very, very good communication tools to use.
All right. Thank you, Cindy. Changes we can make. I really love this slide. On the left side, we have the be more of, and on the right side, in less of. And I have seen this slide. We've talked about this in classes and over the years, and then going to different locations in our agency, I'll see this list on case managers' doors or on leadership's doors. And it is a wonderful thing to place on your door, or if you're working in a facility, post it somewhere, because it is so wonderful. We all need to be more supportive in all of these things. It is difficult to do that when you are upset, but we're saying, hey, we all are having difficulties. Let's all be supportive, accepting, respecting, empathetic, of course, team-oriented, because we are team-oriented all the time. There's always people around that we need and that need us. Okay, guiding, of course, because that is part of your job as a person helper or people helper, as I call it. Flexible, empowering. And when you're empowering, you're letting that person do what they can do and guiding them in a way that is not going to be on the right side, which is you're not questioning people. We don't want to do that. We don't want to be verbally directive to people that can do it themselves. Our team members, we have to keep our tongue silent because we are all a team And a lot of us know our thing, what we're supposed to do. And when we're trying to fix, sometimes we start talking, and sometimes it's better just to keep the mouth shut and let them do what they're going to do. And you can help them that way. And we need to be less authoritative because we want to show that respect. A less dominating, of course, rigid, less judgmental, always, 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 and less controlling. We never want to control people. It doesn't feel respectful to control people. So I love seeing that because it's so true and it spreads the message. So I really love seeing that. As far as the fear and anxiety response, I just want to touch on this a little bit. Fear and anxiety, fear is, fight or flight. Our body responds to that immediately. It's a natural response, and it's a wonderful natural response. It also produces fear. Okay. So one thing, when we have the fight or flight, it can be very unproductive because it makes you freeze. It makes you freeze. And then you have to get over that. And sometimes people can't get over that. But if you just wait and take a breath, sometimes it'll come out a little faster. But this is in a split second. You can overreact when you're fight or flight. You can overreact. And so that's not a great productive thing. And you may respond inappropriately. And I think probably all of us can remember or state a time that we responded inappropriately and we learned from it. And we want to make sure that those things don't happen again. And that's growing up. That's growing up. We need to work on that. We need to help ourselves and help our team members realize that that's a part of growing up, to do that. But anxiety can be productive, and it does give us increase in our senses. It does give us energy to do something right away because we need to take care of the situation. And again, the quicker reaction time. So we have to learn how your body's going to react. Everybody's different. And I think we can learn from other people and kind of, I like how that happened. I want to try that. And then if I feel like, okay, my response is a little bit too much, all right, I need to taper that. You're still helping people, but you got to realize that, we're all growing with this and learning all the time. Okay, tips to manage fear and anxiety. Again, we talked about slow, deep breaths. It's amazing. There are so many free apps and free computer things or free television shows that are not cable oriented that you can find or get on to just have a breathing moment. And the commercials even too, sometimes they have that breathe, the commercial. That's awesome. Really don't want people to rush into the room. Tips to manage fear and anxiety. I teach CPR and first aid. I've taught that for 40 years. You guys, and one of the first things I had to learn, stop. Don't rush into the situation because it may not be safe and it scares other people. And I'm not even talking about accidents or a physical CPR situation. I'm talking about people that are going through some sort of anxiety, and then there's a major disruption in behavior. You really need to stop yourself and look at the situation as fast as you can. It will help. It will help your fear and anxiety as well. Check your perception. What I mean by that is, those of you that work in some of our AFC homes or facilities, when you walk in a room, sometimes you got to get all your, you got to get all your eyes on everybody and everything that's going on. So check your perception. What's happening first before you react? That's a great tip in my book. You want to understand what led to their behavior, but you may not be able to do that right away, especially if you don't know the people that you're working with. In that response, you're just going to see what's going on, react as calmly as possible to how to help them in the minute. Okay. But there may be somebody in the room that knows that person very well that you can hand off the leadership for that person to help. Okay, so try to understand what's going on in the quickest minute that you can, and then of course get help. Help is out there. We need to talk about what do we do in this situation. We need to talk as team members. We need to talk as facility managers about what's next. We all know the crummy things and that we hear every day on the news, and so we really need to work as a team and listen to each other in that sense.
When we look at coping strategies, and I love this because there you see coping, And I think when we mentioned this before, Clarice and I debrief. Sometimes if it's difficult situations, we look at what was the emotional or physical response. What could have happened? What happened? What could we have done differently? It's also important to orientate yourself to that situation. You know, what led up to it? What things could have been preventions? Did we miss some signs and symptoms? Did we miss some signals? You look at patterns in behavior under the coping. You look at investigating alternatives. Was there different choices that could be made? When Clarice mentioned this about dealing with somebody with dementia, you know, could you have given another choice? Could you have redirected somebody as far as giving them that alternative? The N in coping is negotiate future changes that can be made. It's where you look at what ways this could have been prevented, what ways could you have changed the situation. Maybe you were more hurried, maybe you were pushing a schedule, and maybe that person with whatever behavior challenges felt more frustrated or fearful because of those changes. And the last one is always giving that support and encouragement. Always remembering when you're coming with that gentle, loving approach, I think that's the most critical thing as far as helping somebody cope, you know, with maybe frustration, maybe with fear, or even with anger. They see that kind of gentle approach that you're presenting to them. We've threaded through a lot of the myStrength application, and I call this the health club for your mind. I love that because this offers so many different kinds of videos. You saw they're like a minute, 2 minutes, and sometimes that's just enough to help you if you're working with one of the people that we serve or the family member, or even for yourself. So I think it's so important. We know that it's evidence-based, it's self-help resources. You can look at all areas. So if you're dealing with depression or anxiety or stress, or maybe that's chronic pain, you know, back pain, sleep issues, pregnancy and early parenting, addiction and substance use, balancing intense emotions, just what we've talked about, that's been threaded through this whole program, and looking at moving beyond trauma, and also tips and tools that you can use for mindfulness and meditation. So I think all of this is such a great application to use when you think about this. It's available 24/7, 365 days a week. It's absolutely free. We're going to give you the website both for North Country and Northern Lakes Community Mental Health, so you can access that. We have this also as far as resources that we have available, as far as mental health first aid, which Clarice and I are national trainers for, but also crisis prevention, confrontation avoidance techniques, and also, as I mentioned, the myStrength. So all of these are very helpful, I think, in being able to cope with different things. I want to just kind of finish because we started with that backpack, and I want you to use this kind of as reflecting on what kind of burdens, what kind of weights, what kind of rocks are you carrying along that you need to put down. So I want you to use this kind of as a reflection tool, and we can certainly take some questions, or if there were any in the chat afterwards, but wanted to just put this out for everyone.
You strap on a backpack, essentially. The backpack is full of rocks. It's a lot. And as you continue to carry it, you find yourself picking up other things. You pick up uncertainty, and then you pick up isolation, and then you pick up alienation, and then you pick up an even bigger bag of depression, and then anxiety comes into it. You pick up silence, And you become so accustomed to all these things based on the one backpack that you had initially that you don't even realize that your arms are heavy. You don't realize it. You just think this is just what comes with the backpack. This is me accessorizing essentially. This is my outfit. This is a part of my outfit when it's not. We worry that when we tell people we're putting our burden on them and we're carrying all these bags and we're so scared to tell people because we don't want people to carry our things. But what I've realized in just telling people that I love and that I know love me and have shown me that they love me is that their job is not to help me carry the burden. Their job is to help me put it down. You put these things down one by one because you start to say it. You say it to yourself. That's you putting down the silence. You then feel comfortable enough to admit it aloud. And then you put down the alienation, and then you tell somebody that who knows you and who you know loves you and that you love. And then you put down the isolation. And before you know it, you're putting down your depression and anxiety and all these different kinds of things. And as you continue to move forward, you realize, dang, my arms are tired. I don't have to carry all this stuff. I don't have to do this by myself. I can put it down. And before you know it, you've taken the rocks out of the backpack, and maybe the backpack is still there. Maybe you still have it, but it doesn't have to weigh you down or hold you back. It's just something that happened. And in acknowledging that it's something that happened, although it may be terrible or ridiculous, you'll be able to put it down.
I think that's so critical to realize those emotions, realize the burdens maybe that we're carrying, and just what what she said was putting it down, letting it go, letting other loved ones help you, and reaching out for that help too. Here's the myStrength location. So you see myStrength code for Northern Lakes is NLCMH community, and under North Country, it's NCCMHCOMM. So you see both of these. These are, again, free applications for the myStrength. I think you'll find that as a really excellent resource for everyone. I want to thank you for listening to our program, encouraging you to also register for some of the other 1-hour lunch programs. I think it's just excellent information. If there was any questions, we can take them also. I can stop sharing and we can take any questions at the end too. Any questions from anyone? Somebody wrote in tools for resilience. Thank you. Thank you for being a participant. I encourage you to come to our other programs. And I guess I want to just say spring is coming. Spring is coming. So just enjoy the wonderful weather and all the new sprouts that are coming up. And remember, when you're carrying that backpack, lighten your load. Thank you again.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.